So I was talking about eating mushrooms in my salad for lunch, and this became one of those fascinating things that we learned. Now I know the film has been out for a while, but the film Fantastic Fungi, which I saw on Netflix, but I'm sure it's been around a lot longer since Netflix had it. First of all, if you've not seen it, it is absolutely fascinating.
Really? No, really? Really? No, really? Really?
All right, so let's welcome
Louie Schwartzberg.
I wanted to talk to Louie, who created the film and does a lot of stuff in nature with stop action photography that's stunning. Because when I watched it again in preparation for this episode, I mentioned to him that I got the overview effect, which is what astronauts get, which is a depression when they see the Earth in a black void. You realize how precarious it is, how fresh it is. And after I was so moved by watching the film, because I understood how all of these plants communicate, how there's a language that we don't know, that we don't operate under, but how they save the planet and how they recycle CO2 and what they do. And under each footstep is mycelium, and there's 30 miles under each footstep. And this is a communication system. And I went,
and this is why I feel bad that I ate some mushrooms in my salad. because I may have destroyed an advanced being.
The good thing is,
in my selfish desire to survive on
but
this
there are
planet and lose a pound.
There are mushrooms that are the flowering fruit of fungi.
Ooh, flowering fruit.
Can I do one thing before you introduce him?
Sure.
The one story from the film that got me, Louie, you can. Yeah. So they
we'll get to you, Louie. Don't worry.
Hold
about
on,
it.
Louie. Yeah. Stop.
Very annoying.
I can talk about your film better than you can. So in one point of the film, there was an oil spill, and they tried different remediation techniques and stuff. And when they pulled the tarps off the different oil spills, they had sludge, they had stuff had remediated someone, where they had spread spores, fungi, and natural material.
Yes.
When they pulled this thing off, they had giant oyster mushrooms. And the oyster mushrooms then released spores. The spores attracted insects. The insects attracted birds. The birds dropped feed, and the whole thing was regrown. And I watched that, and you go, even talking about it, you get emotional because you say, this could be a solution if we understood it to a lot of the problems that we have here on the planet as far as recycling, because fungi recycles the dead stuff, and it gives rebirth to new stuff. So that's it. That's my emotional.
That was very emotional, and it made me even. I was already feeling bad about the salad, and with every word, you're driving a dagger through my heart. So let's turn to our guest.
You kill it.
Would you like to do the formal introduction?
You're a murder. I apologize. I want to introduce Louie and also apologize for Jason.
You only ate the sexual organ of the plant. The plant is under the ground.
Oh, so I can't tell you how not better you've made me feel.
So Louie, I should mention Louie, is a visual artist, and the stories he tells are fantastic. He did a 3D IMAX film, Mysteries of the Unseen World. And the cool thing about that is when I read about it, it said he focused on things going too slow, too fast, and are too small for us to see. Because there's a whole world of that stuff.
Sure.
So that's kind of fascinating. He's worked for Disney and did a film narrated by Meryl Streep, and also this fantastic fungi thing. It's like an art piece, but it also elucidates things that are right there that you never take a minute to go, oh my God, I didn't realize. I know about photosynthesis, but I never realized that it's taking all the bad stuff out of the air, burying it in its roots underground, spreading it out, and then recycling it in a way that we can live.
Yeah. But look, before we even get into your knowledge of all of that system, I just want to ask, as an introductory question, the thing that you are actually, you came to this as a filmmaker, a cinematographer. You personally have advanced the technology of time-lapse photography. How did you come to be fascinated with that and move it forward?
Yeah, well, when I was at UCLA, I fell in love with, photography and fine art photography, like Ansel Adams, Edward Weston. And then I fell in love with film. And I moved to Northern California, and I wanted to just make experimental film. But to buy 35 millimeter movie film, as you guys know, is expensive. Even back then, it's $100 a minute. for film development processing. I say that today, it sounds expensive, right?
Right, yeah.
Compared to digital.
Yeah.
And so one of the ways I could shoot 35 millimeter, which only commercials and feature films were using, was to get into time-lapse, which had never been done before in 35 millimeter. In 16, it'd been used for like scientific research. Here's a plant with a graph behind it. Hey, guess what? It does grow. But I would shoot things that had never been done before, like take it outdoors, sunrise, fog moving, flowers opening, shafts of light, filming beauty, and all of that hadn't happened. And then there was a film happening in Hollywood called The Secret Life of Plants.
Yeah.
Stevie Wonder did the score for it.
Yeah.
You remember back then?
I do, yeah.
And they go, hey, there's this crazy guy, and probably a hippie. They probably referred to me in Northern California that's shooting all these weird flowers. So I got involved in filming that, which brought me back to Hollywood. And this, I think, is pretty cool. I show the studios, I show the networks this gorgeous 35 millimeter time lapse. They look at it, they go, oh my God, it's incredible, it's beautiful, but we don't know what to do with it because you can't tell a story without conflict. And in my head, I went, bullshit. And the people who got it were the ad agencies, because basically it's eye candy.
Right.
I can grab your attention in a second or two, and bingo, I can sell product, right? And that's kind of how it all unfolded. And then from there, it's on your iPhone now. The whole idea of time-lapse, everybody does it.
You bet.
It's a feature. And the other aspect is that I think it also triggers your sense of wonder to be able to see things that the human eye can't see. It's like you're a child, whether you're watching a flower open or, a mosquito being born out of larvae or just the beauty of a sunset. All of that triggers you in a very spiritual way, which is what I think, Peter, you were saying about the overview effect.
It was
because it's a God's eye point of view. You can talk about E equals MC squared, but to see it,
talk first. So the people who didn't see the film, about what's going on underground and the network of mycelium.
Sure.
That, again, it sounds very erudite and very like it's a college course we're going to. No, it's very basic, correct?
So mycelium is the organism. It's the root structure of budding mushrooms. The mushrooms are really the reproductive organ. It's like the apple to the tree. The mushroom's the apple, the tree is the mycelial network. And what they've discovered is that this network is an incredible shared economy under the ground where nutrients and information is shared for ecosystems to flourish. So the trees are a community.
And recognize their kin.
Well, yes, they'll help their kin. They'll help each other. And this isn't like, hippy-dippy crystals shit. This is like Susan Samard, a PhD professor in British Columbia, and again, as a woman, probably got a lot of resistance from other male scientists saying that it's all connected. They put a radioisotope inside of a tree over here. 50 yards away from that tree, another tree has absorbed that radioactive isotope. So they were able to trace it, right? In an bona fide, experiment. And they see that the mother tree is feeding its kin, and the trees talk to each other. They'll help each other. If one tree's in the shade, it'll give it more nutrients for it to grow. It's a beautiful blueprint, probably, for our survival when you think about it, that when nutrients and information is shared and ecosystems communicate, societies flourish without greed, and that is nature's operating instruction. So is it a good way to go? All I can say, it evolved over hundreds of millions of years, and therefore it's how life has evolved to be successful, to flourish without judgment. I'm not saying it's the way to go, but this is what works.
And look what it's given us. I mean, we got penicillin, and the way this works is because they want to survive. There's an intelligence there. So it wants to survive against the bacteria. So it creates something to survive against the bacteria. We find it, and we use it to fight a bacteria, which is amazing. And even way back, they used to eat bread. They knew that mold somehow would help
fight
with certain diseases, and it could be the next. I mean, we're running out of antibiotics now.
Yeah.
Except the good thing is we also don't know 8 billion species of fungus that are out there, so we don't know them all. So maybe it exists for that next penicillin.
But you know, there's a dark side to this I'd like you to speak to, Louie.
Okay.
Because we had the gentleman who is running the HBO show of The Last of Us, in which the conjecture is that a bacteria, a fungal adaptation happens, and it jumps into the human system, is able to survive the higher temperatures of a human system, and zombifies the people that. To that extent, I always wonder about, because I do think the planet fights back as we tear away at it. I think the natural systems do fight back. There was some conjecture that a lot of these diseases that were even COVID may or may not be a man-made or man-enhanced thing, but I wonder, as we jeopardize these ecological systems and this communication is happening along the mycelium network, if they're not capable of going, well, we were here to coexist with mankind, but if they're not going to get along with us, we're going to take a turn here.
Yeah, I think, look, the fungi kingdom recycles everything in nature, so there are nutrients to grow. And also, what's important for us to know, they're inside of us. I mean, in your microbiome, in our intestines, are fungi. If you didn't have them, you wouldn't be able to digest food. Right. So we have these symbiotic relationships. I think when the symbiotic relationship gets broken, then there is disaster. And that's what we've been doing. We take the carbon that's underground, we burn it, put it in the atmosphere. We put fake oil pesticides into the earth. So instead of the tree depending on the mycelial network for nutrients, it's like a heroin addict. We're giving it this fake shit to absorb, and that then becomes addicted to that. And if you don't give it the fertilizer, it dies. So you break up relationships. Everything in nature is about relationships, cooperation, which is why I think on a moral ground, these lessons are beautiful. It's like, how do you cooperate? How do you get along? How do you share? How do you do things that enable other people to flourish, to be healthy? And that's how I think it's a beautiful moral code we could follow.
Which is augmented, we'll go into these other aspects, but it is a great metaphor for the work that you do, which is to focus on stuff that we decide we don't have the time to watch and see in its entirety and see the beauty of it. And you are able to compress it in such a way that we can have an experience that most of us would never take the time to have and to notice. It's really kind of wonderful.
Our mind was blown because Jason and I went. We always do joint birthday things. Yeah. So we went to. He said, "What do you want to do?" I said, "I want to go to the Sphere to see the Grateful Dead."
Yeah.
And I started in prepping for this thing, talking to you about that. And I said, you know what was beautiful about that? Was the visual there combined with the music. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on or what you believe. Everybody was together at that moment. And then you said, oh, the outside of the Sphere is my visual.
That's my thing.
It's my visuals. And if you stand there and watch it, like you said, watching that stuff, watching nature grow in that you never get to see is a mind blow. If you take a minute, take a breath, and I'm always ADD running as fast at treadmill. If you take a moment and stop and look at that stuff, it is stunning. And you've seen all those images in real time. I mean, you guys, you're the one who decides, I'm gonna isolate this and show you what's going on here, which is pretty powerful.
Well, imagine, if you told someone, you're at a yoga resort, you go, stare at this flower for the next 3 days. Don't go to the bathroom, don't eat, don't do anything. And that'll really help you be enlightened. But I can actually show you what that would look like in 5 seconds, which is great, because it might be nice to be there and stare at a flower for all day, but none of us have that time. I mean, I don't meditate. I wish I had another lifetime to be a Tibetan monk and I could sit on a rock and look at the stars at night. But what's the reality? We don't have that option at all. But if I can give you a visual of what that might be like, which is why I think it does trigger spiritual or transcendent feeling. I mean, think about it. When a flower opens and closes, it's a day in the life of that being. And the films we love that are like biographical, when you see like from the beginning to the end, they're powerful. They touch you because we're all going to die. We all realize it's a transcendent experience we're having here. And to be able to experience that, I think it touches your soul in a way that's hard to describe.
So the mycelium are everywhere. I mean, like I said in the beginning, it's 30
Every continent.
30 million miles. What's the state of where we're at right now? I mean, we watched your film. We now understand, if you watch that and understand it, the importance of the networks and that we shouldn't screw with them. Where are we with that? Because I know you do extensive stuff all over the world.
Yeah, are we in? Is that network as endangered as the rest of our?
It is, and one of the big problems is, industrial agriculture. So one of the ways to prevent the network from being cut up is no-till farming. Mm-hmm. You want to keep the network in place. That's a big deal, because all industrial farming is like, the tractor going down the rows and chopping it up, tearing it up, killing it all, and then putting, petroleum fertilizer on it, and we're destroying it. So there's a movement now about regenerative agriculture. It's perhaps one of the top environmental movements that are happening right now is regenerative agriculture. If we kill the soil, we kill our food supply. Right. And that's really critical.
Can I stop you for 1 second? Because Louie was funny when we were talking. He goes, so when I do TED Talks, and he had a TED Talk, I think 60 million downloads on the TED Talk, but he said, I ask simple questions like, where does soil come from? And I went, okay, let's answer that question. You got me. Where does soil come from?
Soil comes from fungi that breaks down organic matter so that it can be in its smallest component parts to be recycled. But most people don't know the answer to that, right? I mean, people don't know, where does an orange come from? An apple. A fucking flower.
Right.
Right. A flower becomes fruit, nut, vegetables for us to eat. The flower is the sexual organ of the plant, right? Beckoning these, seducing
you keep going
these
back
pollinators.
to that, and I'm getting a little
getting excited. So in Wings of Life, I have Meryl Streep be the voice of the flower. She's seducing bees, bats, hummingbirds, and butterflies to come get her, to move her DNA around, because a flower, a plant, doesn't have legs. It needs to mate with somebody else. Diversity is one of the key elements of evolution. You can't mate with yourself all the time. Sometimes certain species do it, but it doesn't create a stronger DNA, correct? So you got to get these messengers to come move your DNA around. And then the bee, of course, that's moving the pollen around, it's getting that pollen, bringing it back to the hive, and it feeds its children. So what's beautiful about the story, it's not sexual intercourse. It's an intersection between the animal world and plant world that gives us the food we need to eat. And it's not transactional, because I don't think the flower is telling the bee, hey, come transport my pollen, and in exchange, you get food. I think it's an accident, because the pollen just sticks to the furry part of the bee, right? So what's really even on a higher spiritual, in a sense, story, they enable each other unknowingly. I'm going to help you, and they don't realize that they're helping the other party. Right. It's so beautiful and that's really the foundation of life. So after I made that film, I go, well, plants are critical for our food supply, food, shelter, medicine, all of it comes from a plant. What do plants need? Soil. Where does soil come from? Fungi. Without fungi, there'd be no soil, and then again, no life.
So you must be aware of, there was another documentary, I think it was called Kiss the Ground.
Yeah.
I saw that during COVID. Kiss the Ground. It is.
Well, Kiss the Ground, I think, made it. It's called Common Ground. Is the title of the movie.
I'm not sure. To make sure we're talking about the same one, it is basically a documentary advocating a certain this sort of non-tilled farming, because it says. It basically, they took two fallow fields that had been overfarmed, and both of them had farmed out. The ground was dead. And they did this non-till farming on one and kept using it. Well, the one they stopped tilling came back in 3 years. The Chinese government gave a 14,000 square mile sector of dead land to this experiment. And they went in and they applied the practices of non-tilled farming, planting, and in 10 years, that entire forest came back to full life. it can, where this is happening, carbon emissions in the air are sucked into the earth.
Right.
It is literally filtering the air. It presented the idea of saving our soil, respecting our soil as the centerpiece of how we save ourselves from some of the climate destruction that we've done.
Yeah.
And it was just an
It's the
extraordinary
most powerful natural phenomena that can suck all the carbon out of the atmosphere. I've heard that if we would stop polluting tomorrow, in like 5 years, this process of photosynthesis and sequestering carbon under the ground in the mycelial network could totally clean the atmosphere. God. We could do that.
Which is why we're talking about it, because, again, we go about our day. And it's the stuff, like we said, that's too small, too slow, or too fast to see. Is the stuff, as we try and go into space and we're doing all this other stuff to try and save mankind, it may be below our feet. It was fascinating, Louis, to see that CO2, it sucks it in and then it buries it, and it takes its below ground, 70% of it is below ground, and then it transfers it with nutrients and revitalizes, and and then it stores it in the cell walls, and here we are, and we get oxygen, and you take for granted when you hear that, this and that, we're destroying this and you go, no, hold on a second.
Well, I love the guys that go, the world is going to end. I go, the world isn't going to end. We're going to end. The world is going to be fine.
George Carlin did that whole thing with styrofoam. The world cares about styrofoam. No, it's going to get rid of you. Styrofoam and the world will be here long after. Can we segue before you go into the mushroom?
Well, he's not going anywhere. I got questions.
The mushroom part of this. So the mushroom part, in the movie, there were a couple people, and this was moving to me because there were no claims about it's going to cure me.
Yeah.
And it moved me too, because when you have people who have stage 4 cancer diagnosis, you're right there with them, because you get it. We've all been around that kind of thing. And that they were placed on some psilocybin, and most of the group, I think it was 30% of the group, said it was an experience.
70%.
70% said it was in the top 5. 30, I think, said it was the top experience they ever had. And what it did was, they couldn't explain it, but they said it took away their fear of death. It took away their anxiety.
Yeah.
And Jason and I, we talked to John Hopkins because we wanted to find out about all the experiential stuff we've heard about microdosing, because we all also have friends, relatives, neighbors who have anecdotal stories about it helped me with anxiety, it helped me with this.
Sure.
I watched that, and I just want to know your experience with that, having been around it, having filmed it, being open to it. What was your experience?
Well, so these are patients that had a severe diagnosis of cancer, and the psilocybin treatment, what it does is it reduces the fear of death, anxiety. So imagine you got this physiological problem. Now you got this other problem, that what happens when I die? The big existential question. So you got two things going on. So the psilocybin psychedelic experience can make people feel more connected. They feel the oneness of everything. And that's why it triggers this feeling of loss of fear of dying, of love, of connection. And by doing that, it enables, I think, the body to heal faster, because you've taken away this incredible anxiety of like, what's going to happen when I die? The heaven and hell story is a weird story. I wouldn't buy that one in a million years. So that is really, I think, an example of the healing energy of it. What's also interesting, I just recently finished a clinical trial here in Santa Monica where patients with addiction to alcohol take psilocybin, and they watch a big video, 80-inch video screen of my imagery of rhythms and patterns of nature as they're coming onto it. Then they do the thing as we saw in the movie. They lay down with a therapist with eye shades and they go inward. After that, they watch a video that helps them feel grounded. The results showed that the combination of my imagery with psilocybin was more effective than the psilocybin by itself in treating alcohol addiction. So better end results, lower heart rate, respiration rate, blood pressure. This feeling of getting reconnected to nature, whether it's music, whether it's visual, whether it is a chemical like a psychedelic plant medicine, all of these are portals just to becoming grounded.
So you brought us today. Is this your company?
Yes.
And it's called
Fungi.
Fantastic Fungi.
Yeah.
And you've got tinctures based on, I'm assuming, almost all fungal product.
Yeah.
That do a variety of different things. The
Sure.
one that I asked you for and you shared with me is for immunity.
Yeah.
I'll let you know. So my question is, it's twofold. Sometimes from out of nowhere, not necessarily a rainstorm or anything else, but I'll walk out my house one day and my lawn's suddenly covered with mushrooms. My first question is, A, why all of a sudden?
Mm-hmm.
And B, is there a way to know, oh, I can eat that, or I can dry that, and do, or that one's a bad one? There are so many, right? There's so many different kinds.
Yeah.
And I've been on nature walks with guys who knew the immediate area. They go,
Sure.
that one's good, that one will kill you.
Yeah.
So what's your advice to all of us
Look,
why, first of all, why my lawn suddenly becomes a garden party of mushrooms?
There's probably 10 times more species of fungi than there are of plants. And of course, there's more plants than there are people. So there are so many. We've only probably discovered 10 or 15% of the fungal species on the planet. In order to understand or to know what you can eat or don't eat, you have to be with someone who knows. In other words, you forage in these groups. There's mycelial clubs, mycological clubs. That's really the best way. There might be some apps you can use to photograph it, but don't take a chance on doing
I wouldn't trust that.
Because there are mushrooms that can kill you.
Yeah.
There are also berries in the woods that can kill you.
Sure.
So, you just have to be knowledgeable. And why they popped up after that rain, it's time for them to get it on and reproduce. I mean, come on. I mean, they're there all the time. Sometimes, years can go by with certain species of mushroom.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, if the conditions are right, they decide, we need more of us. And, mushrooms come out, spores are released, they fly through the air, and they find other territory that they can grow in. So, nobody can predict. That's why wild mushrooms are expensive, because you only know certain spots, and people that are mycologists, they don't share their secret spots. It's kind of like a cliquey club of nerds that are have a scientific bent to them, and they just keep it all as a secret, because it is it's like birders. It's another kind of interesting group.
Of course.
But it's on every continent. They have found fungi under the ocean. By the way, you wonder, why is this a fascinating topic? I mean, Avatar movie is the #1 box office hit of all time. Who are they battling? Not the blue bin. It's Aya. Aya is the mycelial network under the ground.
Right.
That is the hero of our story.
Yeah.
And I've talked to Cameron about it. More and more of the sequels are going to be about Aya. And Aya is that underground spiritual energy of connection. And the fact that it's the #1 film of all time kind of makes me believe that people are really fascinated and interested.
And that it innately taps
and
something.
it's a way
It's
to
a big
present.
deal. This isn't a weird topic.
Yeah.
It's a popular topic.
We got to wrap up, but I got to ask you about the fact that I'm from Pennsylvania. Kennett Square, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
I remember had a unique odor to it whenever I drove by there, because it was the mushroom capital
Of America.
of America, maybe even the world. And it's in the middle of a place where you go, really? No, really? What's it here?
Yeah.
Is there a controlling family? There's rumors that
You're talking about a mushroom mafia?
I didn't use the term. Why would you go there?
Because you went controlling family, like the Corleones? What do you mean?
Or the Cohens, or the Cohens,
Yeah.
or the O'Learys.
Right,
I'm not putting a thing on it.
All right.
Although Kennett Square is.
But are you about to ask
although it
if
is
there's one family that has the major mushroom interest in Pennsylvania?
Although the Kennett Square area is very Italian, is there a controlling interest in a certain type of mushroom? Because I've heard stories that there are certain things you can't talk about because a mushroom that they sell. I think the market for mushrooms was what did I see? $50 billion business.
Yeah, it's mushrooming.
So
It's
if you found out that
exploding.
portobellos could kill you, if you cook portobellos a certain way, it could kill you, it may not be good for business.
Look, the white button mushrooms are a thing of the past. People are shopping for portobellos, maitake. I mean, every country in the world
Don't
is
say
growing
maitake in
them.
the studio. No, it sounds dirty. No, but portobello, for instance, portobello. I've heard rumor, again, I know nothing about this, that if done the wrong way, it can hurt you, no?
I have never heard that. Look, here's the beautiful thing. Right now we have, inner cities that, are food deserts, you can grow mushrooms in your closet. You can grow mushrooms in the junkyard, and this is a way for people to have protein,
Right.
make a living, good values.
Why is there not more education?
Wait. There's protein in mushrooms?
Yes, big time.
No
as much as a
kidding.
steak. Yeah.
No kidding.
And no
Well,
calories.
they have mushroom steaks. Yeah. You didn't know
I
that?
did no. I thought it was just because it had a nice texture, or it had.
Oh no, it's great, and plus it's got the same kind of it fights the same viruses and antibodies that they fight. You fight. That's why it's good. That's why I gave you that immunity thing. It fights the same viruses that they have to fight. So what they're geniuses at chemical warfare. The mycelial network has little tips, and if they encounter an organism, friend or foe, I'll either eat you or I'll fight you. And so penicillin is an example of that. It's a fungi, and we eat penicillin has saved more lives than any other medicine. So when you eat mushrooms, they kill the same viruses that they're trying to fight against, also affect us, because we have more in common with fungi than we do with plants. Right? Plants take light energy, convert that into chemical bonds. We, like mushrooms, have to digest food. So we have a stomach. They have an external stomach. They put out enzymes, they break it down, and they absorb it. So we have the similar relationship with fungi because we digest food.
I'm beginning to think fungi is called that because they're kind of like a fun guy.
And on that note, I want to thank you, Louie, for coming in. It's a fantastic
Louis,
fungi.
I'm going to tell you know what?
It's a fantastic.
Right here on our show, I'm going to open this up.
Oh,
You
good.
keep talking.
You do that.
And I'm going to become immune.
I got to tell you,
Take
it's
three or four
fast-
drops.
It's a fantastic movie. It's a stunning movie, and
you.
it's not
And-
just because of you.
Well,
It's because of the way you shot it, but also the subject matter that you
Well, thank
chose to
It
shoot.
really is beautiful.
And,
It's a
we've-
beautiful looking movie.
We're re-releasing it in theaters.
It's amazing.
A remastered version.
It's got a new life.
Yeah, and we added a couple of new sequences because we want people to come together in community.
Your movie
Like the Sphere.
with death comes life. The movie's back again.
Totally.
It's reliving.
There
So,
you go.
Now, Louis, this
It's
says to take a full dropper.
Take a full dropper.
Do we have to do this in real time now?
I'm
Is
going to
this
do
what
it in
we
real
gotta do?
time.
And you're going to discover that it actually tastes good.
It would be so funny if you did the take where you put it under your tongue and right out of the chair onto the floor.
First of all, it does taste good.
Look at you.
Yeah.
Uh,
Triple extracted, and it's preserved with glycerin. There's no sugar.
You
Did
can
it taste
shoot
sweet?
you with bullets now. They'll bounce off your chest.
Jason, did it taste sweet to you a little bit?
Yeah, very
There's no
much so.
No sugar.
So what is the sweetness coming from?
It's glycerin. It's preserved in the
glycerin.
glycerin. Yeah.
It is, listen, I got to tell you, if someone told me I could open up 10 bottles of your stuff a day and just do instead of the, do you know the crap? I've become, this is how I know I'm ready for AARP. I have the long box that has Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, is that right?
So do
Every
I.
week, I got to fill this
By the
goddamn
way,
thing up.
excuse me. Did you read the latest on supplements and how they do nothing to aid in life and longevity?
Clearly, I did not because I just told you that I'm filling this thing up every day.
And we're out.
Yeah.
But if I could, you know, have a couple
Clearly
of dropper
not.
fills, just carry some bottle and go blop.
Yeah.
I'm
So
happy.
I
what's-
love that.
So
Clearly-
what's inside
clearly
there
not.
is, by the way, is lion's mane and no, turkey tail. I'm sorry, that's
turkey tail, and that is the one that Peter was talking about.
Yeah,
That
with the
also in
cancer.
some cancer study.
that cured the cancer. So
Yeah.
if you go at the NIH, National Institute of Health, look at the clinical trials, that turkey tail, along with other drugs, reduced breast cancer in women. There is really scientific evidence.
And again,
that
I don't
turkey tail
negate that,
does
but I
work.
tell people who are listening to this before they try stuff, check it out with your doctor.
Oh, yeah,
Check it out,
doctor
do
will
the
put
research,
it
do
in.
all of that stuff. Don't take it willy.
Obviously.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that there is research that has been proven that turkey tail is a powerful component in helping to fight
Got
cancer.
it. Got it. Well,
well,
thank
also
you.
all our medicines are coming from, you know,
From nature.
Exactly.
Duh.
So you
Louie,
know, it
take
makes
care of
perfect
yourself.
sense.
Okay.
Louis,
Thank
I'm
you.
gonna go watch the. I'm gonna get high on immunity,
Oh, it's
and I'm
gonna-
gonna watch the movie again. Then I'm gonna stand outside the Sphere,
Yep.
and I'm gonna. I'm fascinated.
And I'm having
by the whole
T-shirts
Jason-
made up that say I'm getting high on immunity.
Okay. And you're going to come on to it in about 5 minutes. So be
What will
prepared.
I feel?
You're going to be I'm joking. It's like,
Oh, okay.
no, you're gonna
Yeah,
feel
we got
great.
another episode to
You're
take.
gonna feel
Uh-oh. That's fantastic.
All right. Thank
Well,
you.
thank you.
Louie, thank you so much for coming
That's
in. Wow.
fantastic.
You know
and
what?
by the way, that stuff is starting to kick in. I'm feeling a
Hold
little
on,
peppier.
hold on 1 second.
Yeah.
I got it. Placebo. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Placebo. I'm
wow.
sorry. I had
Here we
something.
just did a whole
Placebo.
episode about the
You
magic.
took a thing a second and a half ago. It's still here. It hasn't gone all the way down, and you're going, "Whoa! I can." Whoa!
I didn't
Look
say.
at-
I didn't say I'm tripping.
Ooh.
Yeah. Ooh you. Ooh you. You know. You always talk about me poo pooing. You poo
Dude,
poo. You're big
When
on
we
the poo poo.
The funniest thing I've ever, one of the funniest things that I recall, we were just talking about it today. One of the early shows we did was with Snoop Dogg's blunt roller.
Blunt roller.
And she came in and brought pot for both of us. And the bags looked like something you saw from a Miami Vice festival, which
It's what they usually put out as evidence.
They bust the guy at the pier and they got him against the car and they're loading bags into a trunk. Jason leaving. I can't say what the car he has, but it's even funnier when you talk about this particular car filled with this stuff. Jason's wrapping it. I'm throwing it in the trunk and I don't care. I'm going home.
Yeah.
Jason's wrapping
She brought
it.
them in 2 baggies inside baggies, and the odor was hitting me over the head.
You were wrapping it at aluminum foil.
I'm trying to.
It was a procedure.
You didn't need a drug sniffing dog. You could have. You could have had a congested, elephant would have been able
All
to.
Jason saw.
Oh my God!
All Jason thought was on the way home. You know how it's a little dark out, and you see the helicopter, the news helicopter with the light. And Jason's against the car, and they're unloading a barge worth of pot out of the car. Jason Alexander today was stopped on the 405 with 72 pounds of marijuana targeting for Snoop Dogg. What were you doing with this?
Yeah.
Oh my God! That was one of the.
I was just doing a podcast.
We've had so many. I mean, in 30 years, we've had a lot of experiences, but that one, we ended up talking about that today.
That is, and I'm not a weed smoker, so I threw that in my garage for a couple of days, and the whole neighborhood was like, "Hey, something cooking at the Alexander."
People are wandering. People in tie dye wandering toward your house. Mr. Guggenheim.
Yes.
How are you, sir?
How are you, and what do we have?
He's high
I'm
on
still
mushrooms
waiting
right
for
now.
my pot from that episode. Nobody
never
shipped
happened.
it.
Yeah, it's in transit. We
So,
can't get it across state lines. That's the problem.
Right. Apparently, the federal government has a problem with that. I have a few different sort of the mushroom facts that you might be. Did you guys touch on the fact that what is the largest living organism on the planet?
I did not. We did not. I know what it is.
Other than a redwood tree or something.
I know where it is. Can I give you a hint? If I'm right,
Sure.
Oregon.
No. You're saying where it is? Yes, it is in our area. It's a mushroom. It is in the Malheur National Forest in Oregon. It's 3.5 miles wide.
Excuse me now? A mushroom?
Yeah. A mushroom. Yeah.
Where? And forgive
Now
me,
remember,
I know I can be oblivious
remember
sometimes.
the sexual
but
organs. Remember the sexual organs are the mushroom.
but it's
I'm
below
talking about the
ground.
fungi.
The fungi
right?
part of it.
Under the ground,
Yeah.
you mean?
Yeah.
Under the ground.
That's
yeah.
what's the 3,000
Yeah,
miles.
yeah.
Not a giant shiitake sitting above the field.
That may happen one day, but yes, it's the largest area of fungi in the world, I think.
3.5 miles.
Wow.
And they believe that it's at least 2,400 years old, but they believe it might actually be older than that. Fungus can dissolve certain plastics.
Yeah.
They
We
just
didn't get into
grow
that,
on
but
them.
yeah, that's a new
And
thing.
here's the interesting thing. The most expensive edible mushroom in the world. How much do you think it costs for 1 pound of that mushroom?
Jeez.
Most expensive
I know the stuff is
edible
most
mushroom
expensive.
in the world. I'm going to say $1,500 a pound.
And I'm going to say 20,000.
50,000
Jeez.
per pound.
$50,000.
2,000 for an ounce. But I guess but here, this is. Listen to what you're paying for. Okay, it's called a Yartsa Goonbu. Okay, Yartsa Goonbu.
Yeah.
Or it's commonly called the caterpillar fungus, and guess why? It's a parasitic fungus like the one, the cordyceps in the film in the video game.
Last of Us.
TV show, The Last of Us. It's a parasitic fungus that kills its host caterpillar and uses it to produce a mushroom that grows out of the caterpillar's head.
And this is the one I'm paying $50,000 a pound for.
A pound, yeah.
Because it has the sweet taste of caterpillar on it? What?
Of murder.
Well, there's a whiff. It has a bouquet of antenna, which is divine.
Oh, well, that you can't
Really?
get.
Yeah.
The mushroom thing is fat. Did you see the Nicolas Cage movie, The Pig?
Yes.
It was a kind of a fascinating movie. With
where the pig is the truffle
pig is sniffing
finder.
out
Yeah.
the truffles.
Yeah.
The whole world of mushroom, when I found it's a $50
Wait,
billion
are truffles a mushroom?
Yeah. That's what it is.
Truffles are a mushroom?
Yes.
I thought it was like a
Well,
potato.
they're a fungus. It's a
I
fungus.
thought it was
They're
like
a fungus.
I don't know if it's a mushroom.
No, it is. It's
or
a fruiting part of a fungus. So, but yeah, truffles are
This
a
show
fortune.
never ceases to fill my head with information and delight.
The delight was an afterthought.
Well, yeah.
I noticed. I saw that there was a pause, and you thought, I need to put an asterisk on
I was
this.
trying to think how we try and promote
Fills
the
my
show.
head. It fills my head.
It
and
fills my head with
and this show
information. Sounds
fills-
like an SAT test. So I wanted to
you
give
finish
it
the
a...
sentence. Help me with this.
Peter,
Ready?
I
Wait.
don't want to interrupt.
Go ahead.
I don't want to interrupt, but truffles are edible spores. They are not mushrooms.
Edible spores.
Thank you.
Edible spores.
Thank
I know,
you.
but where do they come from? Fungi.
This show is a font of disinformation.
No. So finish my sentence. This show fills my brain and my loins with
Money.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Where did that come
Not yet, but I'm hopeful. Not yet.
David,
Not
thank
quite
you
yet.
very much. And never correct me, by the way.
David,
It's still a sport. All right.
God bless. So,
David, really?
should I feel good or bad
really,
that
no, really?
Yeah, I was told as Louie was leaving, he said, eat mushrooms, eat fermented food because they nourish the bacteria, they nourish the fungi in your system, and I don't, but I never got the answer. Is it good that I ate the mushroom for the salad?
And
That's a
by the
good
way,
thing?
yes, and it's good. Or cut out the middleman and go eat a rotting rabbit in the woods. Get right to
Wow.
that.
Wow.
Well, because the fungi breaks it down. You can stop the process.
Wow.
Go for
Yeah,
roadkill.
that's fantastic.
David, thank you. And thank you for listening, because I know
You're there, David. I'm in a room with this maniac.
Right.
really, no, really, the show that fills your head with
Fungi.